Captain Jake Morrison stared at the screen in front of him. The message was weak and broken, but he could still make out the words. Someone was asking for help. The signal came from a place far away, near the edge of known space. "Lisa, can you clean up this signal?" Jake asked his pilot. Lisa Chong worked at her controls for several minutes. "It's coming from the Kethmori system. Never heard of them before." Jake looked around his small bridge. The New Horizon was not a big ship. It had only 5 crew members, and they spent most of their time exploring new worlds and trading with alien species. Humans were still new to space travel, compared to the big empires that ruled the galaxy. Everyone knew about the 3 great powers. The Vextar were made of living crystal and controlled huge areas of space. They were cold and smart, caring only about profit and power. The Zephyrians looked like giant insects and had the strongest military in the galaxy. The Luminar were beings of pure energy who could travel faster than anyone else. These 3 empires had divided up most of the galaxy between them. Smaller species either served them or got ignored completely. Humans fell into the second group. They were too weak to be useful and too far away to be a threat. "Should we answer the call?" asked Rick Sullivan, their engineer. He was a big man with kind eyes who always wanted to help others. Dr. Amy Torres looked up from her medical station. "If someone needs help, we should try to do something." Ben Parker, who handled communications, nodded. "I've been learning their language from our databases. The Kethmori are farmers. They've never hurt anyone." Jake made his decision. "Set course for their system. Let's see what's wrong." The trip took 3 days. When they arrived, Jake could not believe what he saw. The planet below was covered in brown and gray. Dead rivers cut through empty land. The ocean looked sick and green. What happened here? Lisa whispered. They landed near the biggest city. It was small and sad-looking. The buildings were made of mud and stone, and many were falling down. The Kethmori people came out to meet them. They were shorter than humans, with blue skin and large eyes. They moved slowly, like they were very tired. An old Kethmori walked forward. She wore robes that might have been colorful once, but were now faded and torn. When she spoke, Ben's translator turned her words into English. "I am Elder Valthara. Thank you for coming, humans. We did not know if anyone would hear our call." "What happened to your world?" Jake asked. Valthara pointed up at the sky. A second moon hung there, much smaller than the first. But something was wrong with it. The small moon had huge holes in it, like someone had been digging. The Vextar came 50 years ago. They found rare metals in our second moon. They said they had the right to take what they needed. We could not stop them. Amy stepped forward. "How did that hurt your planet?" "The small moon controlled our tides. When they dug into it, the tides changed. Our rivers dried up. The rains stopped coming. Our crops died. Now our people are dying too." Jake felt angry. "Did you ask for help from the Galactic Council?" Valthara made a sound that might have been laughing, but it was not happy. "We tried many times. The Council only cares about the big empires. We are too small to matter. The Vextar pay taxes to the Council. We cannot." Rick was looking at readings on his equipment. "The moon's core is almost gone. If they keep digging, it might break apart completely. Then we would have no tides at all," Valthara said. "Our world would become a desert. All life would end." Amy knelt down beside a small Kethmori child. The child was thin and weak. "How many of your people are left?" "Once we were 20 million. Now less than 2 million remain. Most left to find work on other worlds. They send money back when they can, but it is not enough." Jake looked around. At the dying city, this was wrong. No one should have to live like this just because they were not strong enough to fight back. Elder Velthara, are there other species like yours? Others who have been hurt by the empires? The old woman nodded sadly. Many others. The Roxy lose their children to Zephyrian armies. The Medani watch their oceans burn from luminar machines. Dozens of species suffer while the galaxy looks away. We call ourselves the Forgotten. No one remembers we exist. Ben was recording everything. This is not right. People should know about this. Who would listen? Velthara asked. The empires have power. We have nothing. Jake stood up and looked at his crew. Amy was still helping the sick child. Rick was studying ways to fix their water systems. Lisa was talking to young Kethmori about their history. Ben was learning their songs and stories. These were good people who deserved better. All through the galaxy, there were probably millions of others just like them. Species that had been forgotten because they were not strong enough or rich enough to matter to the big powers. Elder Velthara, Jake said, what if I told you that you might not be as alone as you think? What do you mean? Humans are small. Too, we're not important to the big empires either. But maybe that's not always a bad thing. Maybe being small means we can move around without being noticed. Maybe we can help species like yours talk to each other. Velthara's large eyes grew wider. You would do this? Even though it might anger the empires? Jake looked at his crew again. They were all nodding. Sometimes doing the right thing is more important than being safe. For the first time since they arrived, Velthara smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real hope. Dr. Amy Torres could not stop thinking about the sick Kethmori children. 3 days after leaving their world, she made a request to Captain Morrison. Jake, we need to visit more worlds before we go home. If the Kethmori are suffering like this, how many others are too? Jake was looking at star maps in his small office. The company wants us back in 2 weeks. We're supposed to be traders, not rescue workers. But we're also explorers, Amy said. And we just discovered something huge. There are species out there who need help, and no one else is helping them. Rick Sullivan came into the room. I've been thinking about what Elder Velthara said. She mentioned the Roxy and the Medani. Their systems are not far from here. We could check on them. Ben Parker joined them, carrying his communication equipment. I've been listening to deep space signals. There are transmissions out here that don't match any known empire frequencies. Someone is talking, but they're trying to stay hidden. Jake sighed. If we do this, we might make enemies of the big empires. That could be dangerous for all humans. Or we might make friends with a lot of smaller species, Lisa said from the doorway. Sometimes having many small friends is better than having a few big enemies. Jake looked at his crew. They were all good people who cared about others. All right. But we do this carefully. We don't take sides in wars or politics. We just see what's happening and try to help where we can. Their first stop was Roxy Prime. The planet was covered in tall mountains and deep caves. The Roxy were flying creatures that looked like large bats, but they were very smart and could navigate through space better than anyone. Squadron Leader Crickstall met them at the landing pad. His wings were torn and scarred, and one of his legs was missing. When he spoke, his voice was tired and sad. Humans, we have heard of your kind, but never met you before. Why do you come to our world? We heard you might need help, Jake said. Crickstall made a bitter sound. Help. Yes, we need help, but no one gives it. The Zephyrians take our children to be scouts in their armies. They say we owe them protection money. If we don't pay, they attack our cities. Amy looked around the landing area. It was mostly empty. Where is everyone? Gone. The young ones are in the Zephyrian fleet. Many never come back. The old ones have died from sadness. Only a few of us remain to keep our world alive. Rick studied the mountain caves. Your people are natural pilots, aren't they? That's why the Zephyrians want them. We can feel the movement of space itself. We never get lost, even in the darkest places. This gift has become our curse. The Zephyrians use us to find their enemies and plan their attacks. Men was recording everything. How long has this been going on? 60 years. 3 generations of our children gone. Our culture is dying. Soon there will be no Roxy left who remember our old ways. Jake felt the same anger he had felt on the Kethmori world. Have you tried to get help? Crickstal laughed, but it was not a happy sound. From who? The Galactic Council? They say it's an internal matter. The other empires? They don't care about small species like us. We are alone. Maybe not as alone as you think, Amy said gently. They spent 2 days on Roxy Prime, learning about their situation. Then they traveled to Aquatica 7, a world covered in deep blue oceans. The Madani lived in beautiful cities under the water, but when the humans arrived, they found something terrible. The ocean was too hot. Steam rose from the surface, and the water glowed with unnatural light. Dead fish floated everywhere. The coral cities that should have been colorful were now white and broken. Commander Nixara of the Madani met them at an underwater station. She had smooth blue skin and could breathe both air and water. Her people were dying, and she looked desperate. The Luminar came 5 years ago. They built machines on our ocean floor to collect energy from our planet's core. The machines make the water too hot. Our coral dies. Our fish die. Soon we will die too. Rick dove down to look at the Luminar machines. When he came back up, his face was angry. These things are basically cooking the ocean from the inside. If they keep running, this whole world will become uninhabitable. We know, Nixara said sadly, but we cannot stop them. The Luminar say they have mining rights. They pay the Galactic Council for permission. We are just animals to them. That night, Ben made an amazing discovery. Jake, you need to hear this. I've been listening to those hidden transmissions. They're not random. These species have been talking to each other for years. He played recordings of voices speaking in different alien languages. His computer translated them into English. This is Kethmori Station 7. Water reserves down to 30%. Can anyone spare purification equipment? Roxy Fleet Base responding. We have extra purifiers from salvaged ships. We'll send via hidden cargo run. Madani Deep Station. Here, our biotechnology experts have developed new water recycling methods. Sending data packet now. Jake stared at the recordings. They're helping each other. More than that, Ben said excitedly. They've created a whole network. I'm tracking at least 15 different species, all sharing information and resources. They call it the Forgotten Network. Amy was amazed. They've been doing this secretly for years. They have to, Ben explained. If the empires found out, they would shut it down and punish everyone involved. The next day, Commander Nixara showed them something incredible. In a hidden part of her city, she had computers and communication equipment that connected to species all across the galaxy. We have been watching and helping each other for decades, she explained. When the Kethmori crops failed, we sent them our best seeds. When the Roxy needed ship parts, we traded our biotechnology. When new species get attacked by the empires, we warn them and help them prepare. How many species are part of this network? Jake asked. 43 at last count. All of us forgotten by the big powers. All of us trying to survive and help our neighbors. Lisa was studying the network maps. This is incredible. You've created your own hidden civilization. But it's not enough, Nixara said. We can share what little we have, but we're all too weak to really fight back. The empires keep taking more and more. Eventually, there will be nothing left to share. Rick had an idea. What if you had help from someone who could move freely between worlds? Someone the empires don't watch carefully? You mean humans? Nixara asked. We're small enough that the empires ignore us, Jake said. But we're also independent. We're not part of their system. We could help coordinate your network without attracting attention. Nixara's eyes lit up with hope. You would do this, even though it's dangerous? Amy answered for all of them. We've seen what the empires do to small species. Someone has to help. It might as well be us. Ben was already working on his equipment. I can set up secure communication links. We can help different species talk to each other more easily. And I can help design better technology by combining what everyone knows, Rick added. Lisa smiled. Small ships like ours can go places the big empire fleets can't. We can carry messages and supplies without being noticed. Jake looked around at his crew, then at Commander Nixara. I think we just became part of something much bigger than a simple trade mission. Nixara swam closer to them. Welcome to the two. Forgotten network, humans. Together, we might not be forgotten anymore. Captain Jake Morrison stood in Admiral Helen Carter's office on Earth, 3 weeks after returning from the Outer Rim. The room was simple but clean, with windows showing the blue sky and white clouds of humanity's home world. Jake had just finished explaining everything he had learned about the Forgotten Network. Admiral Carter was quiet for a long time. She was an older woman with gray hair and smart eyes who had spent her whole life in space. Finally, she spoke. So you're telling me there are over 40 alien species out there who have been secretly helping each other survive? Yes, ma'am. And they're all being hurt by the big empires in different ways. And you want humanity to help them? Jake nodded. We're in a unique position. The empires don't see us as a threat. We can move around without attracting attention. We could help coordinate aid and communication between these species. Admiral Carter walked to her window and looked out at the sky. Jake, do you understand what you're asking? If the empires find out we're interfering with their business, they could destroy every human world. Dr. Amy Torres stepped forward. With respect, Admiral, they might do that anyway. Right now, we're just lucky they haven't noticed us yet. But that won't last forever. When they do turn their attention to human space, we'll need allies. Rick Sullivan had been quiet, but now he spoke up. Admiral, I've been studying the technology these species use. Each one has developed amazing things to survive. The Roxy can navigate better than anyone. The Kethmori have farming techniques that could feed billions. The Maigani have biotechnology that can heal almost any injury. What's your point? Admiral Carter asked. My point is that together, these species know more and can do more than any single empire. The Vextar are powerful because they're organized. The Zephyrians are strong because they have discipline. The Luminar are fast because they're made of energy. But the Forgotten Network has diversity. That might be more valuable than any single advantage. Ben Parker opened his communication device. Admiral, I've been talking to species across the galaxy. They're desperate for help, but they're also incredibly resourceful. If we could help them work together more effectively, they might not need to be victims anymore. Admiral Carter sat down at her desk. This is a huge risk. If it goes wrong, it could mean the end of human civilization. If we do nothing, we might end up like the Kethmori, Lisa Chong said quietly, slowly dying while the big powers take everything we have. The Admiral was quiet again. Jake could see her thinking hard about the decision. Finally, she sighed. All right, I'll authorize a small program, but we do this very carefully. No official military involvement. No direct confrontation with the Empires, we provide humanitarian aid and technical assistance only. Dr. Torres smiled. That's all we're asking for. What do you need? Jake had been preparing for this question. 3 more ships like the New Horizon. Small, fast, and able to carry supplies. A team of engineers and scientists to work on technology sharing. And official permission to operate as a humanitarian organization. You'll have it. But Jake, if this goes wrong, I can't protect you. The government won't admit we were involved. I understand, Admiral. Over the next 6 months, the plan came together. Rick Sullivan worked with scientists from the Forgotten Network to develop new technologies. By combining human manufacturing with alien knowledge, they created amazing things. Roxy. Navigation techniques made human ships nearly invisible to enemy sensors. Medani biotechnology created self-repairing hull materials. Kethmori agricultural science allowed ships to grow their own food during long trips. Each combination was better than what any species could make alone. Ben Parker established the Galactic Humanitarian Network, which sounded like a simple charity, but was actually the coordination center for the entire operation. From Earth, he could talk to species across the galaxy and help them share resources and information. Amy Torres developed new medical techniques by combining human knowledge with alien biology. She learned to treat dozens of different species and trained other doctors to do the same. Lisa Chong became the leader of the ship crews. She trained pilots to use Roxy navigation methods and taught them how to avoid Empire patrols. Soon, human ships were moving through dangerous space without being detected. The first real test came when Zephyrian raiders attacked a research station where humans and Roxy were working together. The station was small and lightly defended. Everyone expected it to be destroyed quickly, but the defending ships had been upgraded with a new hybrid technology. They moved like nothing the Zephyrians had ever seen. Roxy navigators guided human ships through impossible maneuvers. The raiders could not hit them or predict where they would go next. After 6 hours of fighting, the Zephyrians gave up and left. They had lost 3 ships and damaged several others, while the defenders had barely been scratched. The Zephyrian commander sent a confused report to his superiors about impossible enemy movements and ships that seemed to know our tactics in advance. News of the victory spread quickly through the Forgotten Network. For the first time in decades, some of the small species had successfully fought off Empire forces. Hope began to grow. Jake was on the research station when the battle ended. He watched Roxy and human engineers working together to repair the damage. They were not just allies now. They were friends who trusted each other completely. Captain Morrison, said Squadron Leader Crickstall, the Roxy commander, my people have not won a battle in 50 years. How did you make this possible? Jake smiled. We didn't make it possible. You did. We just helped you work together. The Zephyrians will be back. They will bring more ships. Then we'll be ready for them. And we won't be alone. Rick came over to them, his face excited. Jake, you need to see this. The combination of human weapons and Roxy targeting systems is incredible. We can hit targets that should be impossible to reach. Show me. They went to the weapons control room, where a young Roxy was working with human technicians. The Roxy could sense the movement of enemy ships through space in ways that human computers could not match. When they worked together, they could predict where targets would be and fire weapons that would hit them perfectly. This is just the beginning, Rick said. Wait until we start combining technologies from all 43 species. We'll be able to do things that no empire has ever imagined. That night, Jake talked to Admiral Carter over a secure communication link. The empires are starting to notice, she said. They're asking questions about human activities in the outer rim. What kind of questions? The kind that suggest they're getting worried. Jake, You need to be careful. If they realize what you're really doing, they'll stop treating humans as harmless. Maybe that's not such a bad thing, Jake said. Maybe it's time the galaxy knew that humans care about justice. Admiral Carter was quiet for a moment. Just remember, Jake, once you start down this path, there's no going back. The empires don't forget, and they don't forgive. Then we'll have to make sure we're strong enough to protect ourselves and our friends. After the call ended, Jake looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 43 different species were working together for the first time in centuries. They were sharing knowledge, helping each other, and building something new. The empires thought they controlled the galaxy through fear and power. But Jake was beginning to think they were wrong. The real power might belong to those who chose to help each other instead of conquering others. Time would tell which approach would win. News of the victory at the research station traveled faster than anyone expected. Within weeks, stories were spreading through both the Forgotten Network and the Empire Intelligence Services. A small species whispered about hope and new possibilities. The Empire commanders demanded answers about impossible enemy capabilities. High Crystal Arch Zarthan of the Vextar hegemony stood in his crystal palace, reading reports from across his territory. His body was made of living diamond that shifted colors when he was angry. Right now, it was glowing red. These readings make no sense, he said to his advisors. Mining operations on 17 worlds are reporting unexpected resistance, equipment failures, sabotage that should be impossible for primitive species to accomplish. His chief intelligence officer, a smaller crystal being named Velkara, projected holographic data into the air. The technology signatures don't match anything in our databases. It appears to be hybrid construction, combining multiple species capabilities. Impossible. These species barely understand basic science. They have no resources for advanced research. Yet the evidence is clear. High Crystal Arch. Someone is helping them. Meanwhile, in the hive city of the Zephyrian Collective, General Vekvar was having his own problems. The insectoid commander's mandibles clicked angrily as he studied battle reports. Explain to me how a single research station defeated an entire raider squadron, he demanded of his subordinates. The enemy ships moved in ways we have never seen, replied Captain Zixtel. They seemed to know our attack patterns before we used them. Our targeting systems could not lock onto them. And you're telling me these were human ships? Human-built, but with unknown modifications. The movement patterns suggest Roxy navigation, but combined with human engineering in impossible ways. General, Dekvar's 4 arms twitched with frustration. Humans are weak. Roxy are slaves. How could they challenge Zephyrian military superiority? No one had an answer. In the energy realm of the Lunar Consortium, Prime Consciousness Velinara was experiencing similar confusion. As a being of pure energy, she could process information faster than any biological creature, but the reports from her extraction operations made no sense. Efficiency is down 30% across all Outer Rim operations, reported Subconsciousness. Corfin, the local species have developed countermeasures we cannot understand. Show me. Energy flowed between them, sharing data directly. Velinara saw extraction machines being neutralized by biological agents that should not exist. Energy fields being disrupted by harmonics that no known species could generate. Facilities being abandoned overnight as local populations vanished without trace. There is coordination here, Velinara concluded. These species are no longer acting independently. On Earth, Admiral Carter was authorizing something called Operation Lighthouse. Jake Morrison stood in her office with his expanded team, which now included experts from dozens of human colonies. The empires are finally paying attention, Admiral Carter said. Our intelligence suggests they're beginning investigations into Unusual activities in the outer rim. That was always going to happen eventually, said Dr. Torres. The question is whether we're ready for their attention. Ben Parker had statistics that amazed everyone. The Galactic Humanitarian Network now officially operates on over 200 worlds. We're providing disaster relief, medical aid, educational resources, and technical assistance to 67 different species. And unofficially? Admiral Carter asked. Unofficially, we're coordinating the largest mutual aid network in galactic history. Species that had never heard of each other are now trading resources, sharing technology, and defending each other against Empire aggression. Rick Sullivan had been working non-stop for months. His team had developed hybrid technologies that combined knowledge from all the forgotten network species. Admiral, what we've learned is incredible. Each species has evolved unique solutions to problems the empires never bothered to solve. When we combine all that knowledge, we can do things that seem impossible. Lisa Chang had been training pilots from multiple species to work together. The coordination we're achieving in joint operations is beyond anything I've ever seen. Human strategic thinking, Roxy navigation, Merdani biotechnology, Keth Mori agricultural systems. When they all work together, the result is greater than the sum of its parts. Admiral Carter looked at reports showing the scope of their operations. This has grown far beyond what I authorized. You're not just providing humanitarian aid anymore. You're building something that looks suspiciously like an alternative civilization. Jake nodded. That's exactly what we're building, and it's working. The proof came in what Ben called the Great Awakening. Across the galaxy, species that had seemed weak and helpless began revealing capabilities that shocked the empires. On agricultural worlds that the Vextar had thought were nearly exhausted, hidden farming systems produced abundant food supplies. The Keth Mori had been secretly developing underground growing facilities using techniques shared by 12 other species. Mining operations hit unexpected resistance as species deployed countermeasures they had developed by combining their knowledge with human engineering principles. What had looked like primitive tools turned out to be sophisticated equipment disguised to avoid Empire attention. Military scouts found their advantages neutralized by enemies who somehow anticipated their every move. The Roxy had been sharing their navigation techniques with other species, creating networks of observers who could track Empire ship movements across vast distances. The turning point came when Squadron Leader Crickstow led a rescue mission that everyone thought was impossible. Thousands of Keth Mori had been enslaved on a Vextar mining station deep inside Empire territory. The station was heavily defended and considered unreachable. But Crickstow's fleet used ships, built with technology from 7 different species. Human stealth systems made them invisible to sensors. Roxy navigation let them move through dangerous space routes. Medane biotechnology allowed them to survive in environments that would kill normal crews. They penetrated deep into Vextar. Space reached the mining station and extracted over 3,000 Keth Mori slaves. The rescue fleet escaped without being detected by any Empire forces. The first the Vextar knew about the operation was when they found their mining station empty and their slaves gone. High Crystal Arch. Zarthan's crystal body turned bright purple with rage when he heard the news. This is impossible. No one can penetrate our territory undetected. Yet it happened, Velkara reported. Somehow, primitive species have developed capabilities that exceed our own. Find out how, find out who is helping them, and destroy them all. But the empires were discovering that fighting the Forgotten Network was not like fighting a normal enemy. There was no central command to attack, no capital world to conquer, no single leader to eliminate. When the Vextar attacked one world, the inhabitants had already evacuated to 3 others. When the Zephyrians increased tribute demands, entire populations disappeared overnight. When the Luminer tried to shut down resistance operations, they found their targets had moved to places they could not reach. Jake was coordinating relief efforts from a mobile command ship when Admiral Carter contacted him with urgent news. Jake, our intelligence indicates the three empires are considering an alliance. If they work together, they might be able to defeat the network. How much time do we have? Weeks, maybe months. But Jake, if they unite against you, even the network might not be strong enough to survive. Jake looked around his command center. Humans worked alongside Roxy, Kethmori, Medani, and dozens of other species. They were sharing information, coordinating operations, and supporting each other in ways that would have seemed impossible just a year ago. Admiral, I don't think they understand what they're really fighting. What do you mean? They think this is about territory or resources or military power. But it's not. It's about something much more basic. It's about the right to exist without fear, the right to help your neighbors, the right to work together instead of being forced to serve others. Amy Torres came over to join the conversation. The empires rule through fear and division. They keep species apart so they can't work together. But we've shown that cooperation is stronger than domination. Rick added his thoughts. They've built their power on the idea that might makes right. But we're proving that helping each other makes everyone stronger. Ben was monitoring communications from across the galaxy. Jake, you need to hear this. Messages are coming in from species we've never contacted. Word is spreading about what we're doing. Species are asking to join the network without us even approaching them. Lisa smiled. The empires wanted to keep everyone weak and isolated. Instead, they created the conditions for the biggest alliance in galactic history. Jake looked at the star charts showing network operations. Red dots marked empire worlds. Blue dots showed network members. There were far more blue dots than red ones. The empires are about to learn something important, he said. When you spend centuries making enemies of everyone smaller than you, eventually all those enemies might decide to work together. The galaxy was changing, and there was no going back. The three empires met for the first time in over 1,000 years. High Crystal Arch Zarthan of the Vextar, General Thekvar of the Zephyrians, and Prime Consciousness Velinara of the Luminer gathered in a neutral space station to discuss the growing threat. This human infestation must be stopped, Zarthan declared, his crystal body glowing angry red. They have turned our vassals against us. General Thekvar's mandibles clicked in agreement. My scouts report network activity on over 300 worlds. Species that were once properly controlled now resist our authority. Velinara's energy form pulsed with frustration. Economic efficiency across all territories has dropped 40%. The smaller species no longer provide adequate tribute. Then we crush them, Zarthan said simply. We combine our fleets and destroy every world that supports this rebellion. It's not that simple, Velinara warned. This is not a normal rebellion with armies and territory to attack. They seem to exist everywhere and nowhere at once. General Thekvar projected tactical displays. My intelligence suggests the humans are coordinating everything from mobile bases. If we can find and destroy their command centers, the network will collapse. The three empires agreed to pool their resources for one massive campaign. They would find the human leadership and eliminate it, then hunt down every species that had joined the network. It would be the largest military operation in galactic history. On New Horizon Station, Jake Morrison was preparing for what everyone knew was coming. The station was humanity's most advanced facility, built using technology from 43 different species. It served as the coordination center for the entire network. They're coming, Admiral Carter warned over a secure channel. From Earth, our spies report massive fleet movements from all three empires. They're planning to hit you with everything they have. Jake looked around the station's command center. Humans worked alongside aliens from dozens of worlds, all united in a common purpose. How long do we have? 3 weeks, maybe less. Dr. Amy Torres was treating patients from 7 different species in the medical bay. Jake, we can't evacuate everyone. There are too many people depending on this station. We're not evacuating, Jake said firmly. This is where we make our stand. Rick Sullivan had been working day and night to prepare the station's defenses. The hybrid shield systems are ready. We're using Mergani biotechnology to absorb energy attacks, Vexstar crystal matrices to deflect physical weapons, and Zephyrian coordination algorithms to predict incoming threats. Ben Parker was coordinating with resistance cells across the galaxy. Jake, something amazing is happening. When word got out about the Empire Alliance, species we've never even contacted started joining the network. They're organizing their own resistance operations. Lisa Chong was training the defense fleet. Her ships now included vessels from 20 different species, all equipped with hybrid technology that made them far more capable than anything the Empire's expected. Squadron leader Crickstall arrived with urgent news. Captain Morrison, my scouts, report the Empire fleets are larger than we anticipated. Over 2,000 ships, including their most advanced warships. How many ships do we have? Jake asked. 600, counting all our allies. But Jake, that's not the real number. What do you mean? Crickstall smiled, something Roxy rarely did. Every day, more ships arrive from species who want to help. The Empires think they're fighting a small rebellion. They don't realize they're fighting half the galaxy. The siege began 3 weeks later. The combined Empire fleets arrived at New Horizon Station, expecting to find a small human base with minimal defenses. Instead, they found a massive defensive network protecting not just the station, but an entire star system. High Crystal Arch Zarthan studied the tactical displays with growing confusion. These readings cannot be correct. The defensive fleet appears to include ship designs from dozens of different species. General Vekvaris' reports were equally puzzling. My scouts cannot get accurate counts. Enemy ships appear and disappear using stealth technology we cannot identify. Prime Consciousness Valinara was analyzing energy signatures. The defensive systems are unlike anything in our databases. They seem to combine technologies that should be incompatible. The first attack waves met resistance that shocked the Empire commanders. Their weapons, designed to destroy specific types of targets, encountered defenses that adapted and changed. Energy blasts were absorbed and redirected. Physical projectiles were caught by living nets that grew stronger under attack. Electronic warfare was countered by biological computers that could not be hacked. But the real surprise came from the Yav. Coordination of the defense. Ships from dozens of species worked together with perfect timing. Roxy navigators guided Kethmori supply ships through impossible routes. Megani biotechnology repaired damage faster than Empire weapons could cause it. Human strategic thinking coordinated everything into a unified response. The siege lasted 6 months. Every day, the Empires threw everything they had at New Horizon Station. Every day, the defenses held and grew stronger. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, network operations launched coordinated attacks on Empire facilities. On the Vextar homeworld, crystal mines shut down as workers disappeared overnight. Zephyrian supply lines were cut by invisible ships that struck without warning. Luminar energy collection facilities found their equipment mysteriously failing across dozens of worlds. This is impossible, Zarthan raged after another failed assault. We are the dominant powers in this galaxy. How can primitive species resist us? Perhaps, suggested Velkara quietly, they are no longer primitive. Dr. Torres was working in a field hospital near the front lines when she realized something important. "Jake, look at this. We're not just defending anymore. We're winning." She showed him medical reports from across the defensive network. Casualties were surprisingly light. The hybrid medical technology could treat injuries that would have been fatal before. More importantly, morale among the defenders was incredibly high. "They're not fighting because they have to," Amy explained. "They're fighting because they believe in what we're building. Every species here chose to be here. They're fighting for something better than what the empires offer." Rick came running with exciting news. "Jake, the energy absorption systems are working better than we hoped. We're actually getting stronger during the battle. The Empire attacks are powering our defenses." Ben had been monitoring Empire communications. "Their coordination is breaking down. The three empires aren't used to working together. They're starting to blame each other for the failures." The end came not through surrender, but through exhaustion. After 6 months of constant fighting, the Empire fleets had lost over half. Their ships, their supply lines were cut. Their homeworlds were facing rebellion from their own vassal species. High Crystallarch Zarthan made the decision first. "This cannot continue. We are destroying ourselves, fighting an enemy we do not understand." General Vikvar's military discipline finally broke. "We came here to crush a rebellion. Instead, we have created a war we cannot win." Prime Consciousness Valinara calculated the costs and benefits with mathematical precision. "Continuing this campaign will result in the collapse of our own civilizations. We must negotiate." The Galactic Coexistence Accords were signed aboard New Horizons Station 6 months after the siege began. The terms were simple but revolutionary. The empires would keep their core worlds and any species that chose to remain with them. But the Forgotten Network species were recognized as free and independent, with the right to govern themselves and choose their own allies. Jake stood on the observation deck of New Horizons Station, watching ships from dozens of species arrive for the first free galactic assembly. The galaxy had changed forever, not through conquest, but through cooperation. Elder Velfara of the Kethmori approached him. She looked healthier than when they had first met, and her robes were now bright and colorful. "Captain Morrison, my people would like to thank you. You don't need to thank me. You saved yourselves. We just helped you work together. That is exactly why we thanked you. You showed us that being small does not mean being powerless. You taught us that helping each other makes everyone stronger." Commander Nixara of the Mergani joined them. The healing of Aquatica 7 is proceeding ahead of schedule. When 43 species work together to solve a problem, solutions come quickly. Squadron Leader Crickstyle landed nearby, his wings no longer torn and scarred. Roxy children are returning from the Zephyrian fleets. For the first time in 60 years, we can teach them our old ways again. Dr. Torres was treating a young Luminar who had chosen to leave the consortium and join the network. "Jake, we're seeing something amazing. Some individuals from the Empire species are asking to join us. They want to be part of something based on cooperation instead of domination." Rick was already planning the next phase of technological development. "With full cooperation between all our species, we can solve problems that have plagued the galaxy for centuries. Poverty, disease, environmental damage. When everyone works together, nothing is impossible." Ben was coordinating communications between hundreds of worlds. The network keeps growing. Species we've never heard of are asking to join. They want to be part of a galaxy where everyone matters. Lisa was training Pilot,